Okay. Hi. Okay, so I wasn't really happy with how this turned out. Um, it's getting there, but I'm really wanting to be really meticulous about the quality of the final imagery. So there's a bit of bouncing around here going on. What I did to solve the problem was I brought it into Blender as an image sequence. So I go Shift A, Mesh, Images as Planes. I selected the image sequence. I turned off Shadeless. I put this on Diffuse so that it isn't self-illuminating, if you will. I clicked Animate Image Sequence and Auto Refresh. That causes it to import this as an image sequence and just map it to the plane. Now, if you look at this in texture mode, actually, I don't want to look at texture mode because that sort of gives away too much too early. This is the actual image sequence that came out of OpenTunes. Okay. And then what I did was I put it in material mode, I believe. Actually, over here I put it in texture mode, and I put over here rendered. Okay, and then what I did was I actually just started adding lights to the scene. Okay, so this light, if you were to really muck with the energy of it, you can see what it did. Okay, I got another light over here that is, I want this to be like a really intense red. Look at that. So now I'm able to add these sort of gradient effects to the shot. I'm laughing because it's like so stupidly easy to get a really cool effect here. If I crank up the power on this blue one, and we can really tint the scene. Now, one issue that we're having is I need to select this, and I turn the emit level up. So let me turn that back down. By turning the emit level down, well, actually, let me show you this. If I click shadeless on the material, then you'd be back to your original. It's not going to be affected by the lights. But I didn't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and crank up the power of this light. And let's just see what happens if we make it a little more white. I mean, it's so cool because we can just jump around and try different things really quickly. And I do know that I want this tinted to the blue. And then I'm going to go to camera view here. If I switch this to, I believe, textured. Okay, in this view, I don't know how the settings are different from here to here, but in this view in texture mode, it doesn't really show me the tinted version. Let's see what the difference is between material. Okay, material and rendered look about the same in this view. So now if I hit Alt A, you can also see that I animated the plane to scale up a little bit, so we actually have this slow push in. There's one more thing that we would be bumping into that's problematic. So I want to flag this right now, is that the image sequence is seamlessly looping. So she breathes, and if you were to loop it, she would just keep breathing. Okay, so that's useful because as I'm editing this scene together, I'm realizing that I really need more. I need more frames of her breathing. I need to stretch it out longer, and in order to do that, in this scene that I set up in Blender, I really need to have the image sequence looping. Okay, and it is looping here, but I want to show you how I did that. The way I did it was select the plane and then go into the texture and then make sure you press cyclic. So auto refresh is what makes it actually play the sequence in the 3D viewport. If this was off, it wouldn't animate at all. As you can see as I drag through it, you've got the scaling, but the breathing has stopped. Well, that's because it's not auto refreshing the image sequence that's mapped to that texture. All right, and then cyclic. If I don't have cyclic on, it's just gonna loop once and then freeze frame on the last frame. So what I want is this, so that I can take the whole sequence and stretch it out a little longer than I originally had it. Okay, and then I think that's gonna comp together quite nicely. So there you go, there's that. And when I compare that imagery to what I had here, you know, what's interesting about this, that's cool about doing it in Blender, is that if I wanted to, I could take a graphic of just like these moonbeams and drag it in here on a separate plane. I'm pretty sure in the texture editor, I could use the MIP mapping to and image sampling to actually blur it out a little bit more, so I could make it out of focus. And then by adjusting the emit value on the texture, so let me grab that and then slip down to sorry about this, that I'm moving a little slow on the texture, right? Maybe it's in, oh sorry, it's in the material, not the texture. Okay, so you could actually dial in how opaque or transparent you wanted that effect to be. So essentially you're able to do a fair amount of sophisticated compositing right here in the Blender 3D view. So anyway, that's kind of a quick tip for doing post-production compositing in Blender, and with that I'm sure there will be other ideas, you know, downstream too.